big date.
Yeah. I'm going to be recording this. um, if you share and you don't want to be recorded, I will stop the recording for your share.
What does it say? It says recording. So here we are. I think the place to start is where we are all one. And so if everybody will just relax, close your eyes, coming home deeper through the breath, just through an inhale and a deep relaxation. We drop in out of the mind and into the heart, into this true nature that is awareness, that is our heart, that is our true nature. And so a deep inhale and a relaxing exhale, just relaxing out of the body mind and into that wider space. All of us here are meditators and know this space. We actually know who we are, but sometimes that eludes us. So now we're consciously coming home. And as T.S. Eliot says, arriving there, we may know it for the first time, but we know this space. This is the one I am. Tattvam Asi, thou art that. And just through another deep exhale, we just relax into that space. Here we are the same. There's no contention, no other. There is the one heart. This reality is our home. Everything emerges here. There isn't anything happening that wasn't caused in this scintillating, effulgent, arising, overflowing aliveness. And I am that. Tatvamasi, thou art that. So we relax into this immense infinity. There are no limits here. There is the one. Here we are all the same. We are all love. We are all connection. No distinctions, no separation. Just a simple experience of the fullness of being. Relaxing more into this space. Here we are all the same. No distinctions, no separation, just love. And the love that we know as the knowing of. To know is to love, to be one with. And so these last minutes, we'll simply relax into the silence, into this depth of connection. And so it is. With every breath, just relax more deeply, expanding, opening, allowing. What a space of connecting the technology, the meditation, and the oneness, which has no geography or time aspects. It seems that for most people individually and for the whole, for the world, we might say, there is a sense of disequilibrium and things having come to a place where there's no surety. And so everybody is in this uncertainty, bordering on fear, maybe going back and forth. It seems to me, what occurred to me was that in consciousness, collectively and individually, there's a kind of perturbation that occurs when there's approaching a shift into a higher level. There was a chemist, I think his name was Prigogine, who won a Nobel Prize for his theory of dissipative structures. And what it pointed to was that in nature and in all systems, there seems to be a dynamic where things get so out of kilter, they get so perturbed, they get so um, erratic that right before they shift into a next higher level. And it seems to me that something like that is occurring for individuals and for the world. That I think it even could be, there probably is an analogy in the recovery community of things going, it's hitting rock bottom, I guess, like that. So whether we're pointing to a morphogenetic field, as in Rupert Sheldrake, or in Carl Prigogine's theory of dissipative structure, there's a lot of shit happening right now. It's happening for individuals, it's happening collectively, and everything seems to be like there's no place to stand, there's no anchor. In the past, my sense is that there was such a heavy load of collective conditioning that things seemed to get handled. But we've gotten way beyond that now in collective consciousness. And so things seem to be falling apart. They seem to be unfixable, like there's no place to get a handle. And so we're called into the possibility for waking up out of that bad dream, waking up out of that perception that everything is something that needs to be changed or fixed in order for me to be okay, whether it's in the world or in my own experience, one's own experience. The shift that needs to occur and that is so being pointed to now through technology like this, uh, through many, many awakening ones, we are pointing to what is cause in the matter. Instead of being caught up by effect, but being caught up in the debris of a mind gone crazy in fear, we are moving back, we're backing out. The meditation is an experience of that, moving into an expanded sense of true nature, because this bad dream, even as a bad dream, came from somewhere. And we need to go back to what's sourcing it. And what is the filter in us that creates it being experienced and looking like it does now, individually and collectively. So I guess what it came up for me today in order to the message to be with all of you is that it's time to back out of this bad dream, to at least sit up on the side of the bed and say, oh my God, that was a bad dream. It's like it's time to show up and to be aware of source. What sourced that bad dream? What is the filter through which consciousness is projecting? And start to notice that that filter is our own woundedness, our own sense of separation, and everything that that brings in the larger reality. Because if there are people that are here to redream the world, it is people like us, people who are aware and moving toward awake awareness as their true nature and living from that place. So that there is a return to the gardens, a return to a knowing of the oneness, a knowing of connection, a knowing of the love that we all are, and to experience it together. So I often say that the way I communicate and the way I think about things could be called a kindergarten model. And the kindergarten model that I want to offer right now is one of the frequency model. And again, it's a kindergarten model, so don't any physicist call me or look me up. I'm not interested in your opinion. But in this kindergarten model, it's the realization that this reality is based in frequency. And there is some science that I don't understand that points to that. But in our own experience, we know it. We experience the frequency of ourself being at peace and knowing what that feels like. We experience the frequency of ourself and an apparent other being together and knowing what that feels like. So if this is a frequency reality and our part in it is our frequency, it's time for us to wake up out of fear, because the contribution energetically that we're making into our body and into this larger reality, our collective body, if it's a frequency of fear, it's going to be and has been and is being matched by what we call the quantum field. Because the quantum field, and this again, my kindergarten model, the quantum field is the response mechanism to our input of our frequency. I often say, as all of you know who've worked with me, the body takes the hit. So the first reality that gets the hit of fear or rejection or I'm not good enough or whatever frequency we're emitting is our body. But the information doesn't stop there. It goes into this quantum field. And then we're participating in this world where there's suffering and we wonder what to do. This is what to do. We want to go work at the soup kitchen, and we can do that. And we want to go take care of people who are underprivileged, and we can do that. But the thing that will make the most difference is this shift right here where you are. And this is the shift back home to love. This is the shift back to what it means to be on my own behalf, and because that is on behalf of the whole. Coming home to our true nature, we understand that when a spiritual teacher like Jesus said, as you do it unto the least of these, you do it unto me. And for each one of us caught in a wounded identity, we are the least of these. And so it's this close in self-rejection, this close in lack of self-regard that is the frequency that, and that's where our responsibility is. So today, if there's an altar call, then it is this, is to come home to yourself, to come home to being on your own behalf, from where you will benefit the whole. From that place, you will connect to a larger field. And as we do that, we can redream this reality together. It's in a kind of analogy would be a return to the garden. Because in the experience of no longer being caught in fear, that's the experience. It seems to be individual. There are no individuals. So we're doing this together. We're all wherever we are with it. Whatever our issue is, that's our contribution to a shift in this reality. So talk to me.
Hang on, Polly. Let me
Okay.
allow people. Hang on 1 second.
My techno person said, hang on.
Yeah, so if you want to say something, there's a couple ways we can do this. You can raise your hand and we can call on you, or you can put in the chat like I have something I'd like to ask, or either of those. I'll watch for both. If you want to raise your hand, you go down to the reactions button and click on that, and then just raise your hand. And if anybody in the room has a question or a thought that you want to offer Pali too, you're welcome.
I assume silence means yes.
We have a hand. Katie Lewis. Yay, Katie.
Can I see her?
Yeah, I'm going to spotlight her. Hang on. There we go. There's Katie.
Is she right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Polly.
Hi, sweetheart. Hi, honey.
I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to talk to you.
So glad.
I fell into a hole yesterday afternoon. I was working with a child and a mom that they were new to me, and I just couldn't connect with them within the lesson. When I connected with the boy, the mom didn't see, and I just felt like I didn't know how to meet them. And it kept me up most of the night and this morning, and they shifted their lessons to someone else. And it totally triggered all of my stuff around taking leadership and my own value and wanting to just, hide and garden instead. And so I really welcome the chance to connect to expansive field of love. And it percolated a question I have often about my path, because so much of it's organized around the brain in my work with kids and being like the gravitational field. And then I feel the power of love, holding a greater frequency of love, if I could, to dissolve those layers of fear in children that were part of their natural birth trauma. And so one feels like almost just being with the child is helpful. And then something about my teacher's work where it's more like, if a child's crying, creating boundaries so that they're not crying, and it feels more less attuned to me. Anyway, I guess there's two questions that are coming up. One is I fell in a hole, and how do I navigate so I'm not in that hole next time? And two is, I guess, just around the healing capacity of love.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thankful that I'm on Zoom with you, Robin. Thank you for organizing that.
Yeah, so the opportunity is that that allowing that you're looking for on your own behalf, of allowing, basically the way I express it usually is to let love radiate without concern for results.
Mm.
Because the frequency of concern is one that inhibits a picture that we can't know of, right? There's such a larger reality. And when we have the frequency of concern, like you did, like you said, you fell into the hole, you felt inadequate, you had the self-judgment, then if you can see that whatever is happening is just what's happening, and it doesn't mean anything about you. Now, in this reality, with the way that we equate judgment and the way that we bring everybody into being tested and and acknowledged and fail and pass and all of that. That's a high bar, but this is the one that will contribute to the shift in this reality. It'll contribute very specifically to the shift in your reality if you're operating, and your work is absolutely a work of love that you do with children and parents. And to allow that to be whatever it is without concern for them choosing another therapist or with whatever your mind is telling you about the session, because there's no way for you to know. There's a much bigger picture always. And if, as we allow for that, we're not held in a frequency that's going to mess with that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So there's that one. What was the second one? That was the
I
whole
think
one.
I think that was both of them in one answer.
Good, good. I don't think of myself as concise, but I appreciate that. Yeah, this whole thing of just being present in this moment, because the mind took you into the past where you felt inadequate and had self-judgment
Hmm.
that we call the early wounding, and all of the living out of that since then. But the minute that you're just present, doing what's in front of you to do, life is present with you. When our mind is caught up in fear about the future or concern about right now, even, then that frequency is one that doesn't allow the fullness of the aliveness that is love, that is always showing up, but gets occluded by our mind and by our self-judgment. No matter what it looks like in the apparent external, right? Then this allowing, this expression, this willingness is the frequency that will tell the tale. And you may never know the result of that, but you will know the experience of it, and being kind to yourself and honest. You can't know that it's not the best thing that they went to another therapist. You can't know that the crying wasn't. I mean, allowing everything to be what it is gives you access to your highest expression in the moment. And for the large, what we would call, which is never true, because there's never any outcome. Everything's always moving and opening and shifting, right? So we can't say that there's ever an end result. But in the movement towards that, the opportunity with this frequency of allowing and showing up, and you can notice that the mind is doing its old crap. It's doing its old limitation, its old judgment, but it's still being present. You got this. Yeah.
Thank you, Polly.
Yes, sweetie.
Can I ask a question, Robin?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Give me a second. Hang on.
Okay.
Let me let me navigate myself, my world here. Um, learning curve.
I can just ask it. You don't have to spotlight me.
Oh, oh, go ahead, my dear. Go ahead.
Holly, my question is with Katie, sometimes you ask people to go into what is that wound? What is the conclusion that they came to about themselves? When she said she fell into a hole,
Right.
the hole is the apparent wounding conclusion. I'm not good enough. People always leave me. I don't know what it is for her, but I know I've got a couple of those anyway. So I was curious that you didn't ask her about that unavoidable conclusion that then ends up feeling like the hole that you're in. So when do you name that conclusion, feel the feeling of everybody always leaves me, or I'm not good enough, or as you said, what you pointed her to then is, so you notice this is what it is, this is showing up in your reality like that. you know, you
Right.
can't know that it wasn't the best thing for
Right.
her to leave like that. So maybe you could just clarify that a little bit.
Yeah, the distinction for me is based in that's not available in this Zoom call right now. But Katie and I have worked together a lot.
I see.
I have a sense of her awareness of her wound. And so for me, in this moment, addressing this very specific interaction, she knows the wound that underpins where she went to. But
Okay.
I really appreciate the heads up on that because that's always a good direction to go in for me to take somebody there and for them to go in. Absolutely. And I think Katie will go there. We'll talk about her as if she's not here.
No, I was just
I mean,
about when you just go on or
Right.
when going back to the wound is further inscribing it and sort of just digging into it, reliving it, re-traumatizing like
Right.
that, naming it, this is the feeling, this is what happened, this is what I thought about myself, which you
Yeah.
didn't do.
Yeah. I think it's situational for me and that's probably not very helpful, but sensing what's the most potent possibility in what we're sharing, what she was sharing with me.
Got it.
And I felt that the most potent possibility for her was to see that whatever is going on is to not be caught up in outcome.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got
Thank
it.
you, Janine.
Thank you.
I would like to ask kind of the sixth step, if she went through all five, but the sixth step, which is actually the forgiveness, when does that really come into play? And I guess a more general question, is it really common? It feels like so many times to myself, I've had to go to that forgiveness over and over and over again. And it's always the happening is then I'm relieved of that. And yet it shows up another time or another way, or a little more subtly, but it keeps going. How do you kind of judge when that forgiveness is the place to go, and how often, and how deep, or is there a way to get much deeper, much quicker?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, this is one area where we really need to be kind to ourselves because we're actually deleting detritus from an ancient wound, so to speak. It's not literally that way because we're dealing in a reality where it is not the what we think of as time and space, but the held in consciousness that way, it absolutely is going to go in layers, and you'll get to places, likely you'll get to places where you're not so triggered, and then it'll come up that you are, and there'll be the next layer to go to. So I guess if there was an optimum way to be of help, I would ask you to install the ongoing forgiveness trigger in yourself, right? It's like when the shit hits the fan and you're feeling that contraction and you're feeling that early wounding, which is going to be the source of the trigger or the contraction, is the forgiveness is like arising in the same, in a way. The 6 steps to freedom are such a great map, but that you and I know in your own experience, Steve, that they collapse after a while. It's like you get triggered and you're like, ah, I know what that is. I forgive myself for ever having to believe they're not good enough. So they have a tendency to collapse on their own. And there are times when, even though, like Janine was pointing to, that was an experience, that hole was an experience of the wound. There, there's there are sometimes options of how am I going to be right here, right now with this, right? I know I was triggered. I know what it is. Right? So it's an ongoing process, and I've said many times, even though it's been like 12 years now, since I had the last sense of being a fear-based person, it could happen. I don't know that. If something could show up that I'm responsible for clearing. And I thought it might show up when I got the diagnosis with macular degeneration. It didn't at that point. I didn't find any fear around that. I had no identity with this body mind to the degree that that would be fearful, but it could happen. I don't know what it might be, but we're all responsible in this one space that we are, which is what we move into during meditation. Any one of us can take on anything, an opening, a forgiveness, a seeing, an understanding, a perceptual shift, and everything is for the whole. Everything that any of us is doing is to make this shift in consciousness, and there is only one. There's one, and everything that we do, you know, if you're only motivated by the idea that you're here to serve, serve this way by forgiving yourself. Right.
So we just got a note from Gio that he can't hear talking in the room with Polly. So,
You can't hear those people, or you
right. So
can't
we'll
hear
have to, when you guys speak, we'll have to repeat what the question or what you say.
You can tell him I didn't really know what the question was, so probably answered it that way.
He just said he didn't really know what the question was, so Polly answered it that way. That's what.
Now, the distortion field through which we see what we think of as reality is fundamentally the distortion is the early wounding, and we come in with samskara, past life stuff. There's no tabula rasa. People aren't coming in with a clean slate. They're incarnating into this field now. Having said that, I have a real strong sense that a lot of the, in quotes, ones that are incarnating now are much more conscious than, say, some of us were. That they come in, they bring in, not necessarily what we would call a bodhisattva commitment, but a much more quick to see, quick to see through whatever we would think of as a wound. Very quick to deny. I'm not good enough. Well, who said that, right? and I think of my grandchildren in this regard easily. Yeah.
So Thad posted in the chat.
Uh-huh.
He said, I'm so moved by the notion in Advaita of the neediness and, in a way, impossibility of doing anything. Can you talk about that relative to what you said in the beginning of our current crisis?
That's my son. That's a terrible question. Let me see how to parse that. So the idea that there's no need to do anything, that's absolutely true in the dream reality, and it's even true in the intersection, in our intersection with what appears to be an external reality and our interaction and with it. But what remains for me that I think does apply even with that that consideration is the idea of frequency, and that without understanding, I said it was a kindergarten model. You've taken us way out of that area, right, with this question, but the understanding that whatever I am emitting, whatever I'm expressing, what I'm believing is influencing a reality. At the point where, and I can say this because the nature of reality shifts so dramatically in what we would call, in this case, this person's experience of being relieved of a limiting fear-based identity. So realities shift on the basis of consciousness, on the basis of the reality. I don't think I'm answering your question, however.
He did correct me. I said neediness, and he meant needlessness.
Okay. The needlessness for action. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the reality remains that there is experiencing going on. There's experiencing going on. And that's where I think, even with the kindergarten model of frequency, that's where I think the interface comes so that we can be alert to that. We can be aware of that, because it's as if the body mind unit is an instrument for registering frequency. We know what it feels like if we are uptight like this. We know what it feels like if we're depressed like this. So whether or not it's needless in the larger picture of things, in the local, what is it? Think globally, act locally. In the local reality of it, it's the body mind. And so the whatever comes out of that or beyond that lands wherever it does in the larger creation that Nisargadatta was pointing to, which is the one beyond our minds, in my case for sure, beyond the mind to comprehend. But the local experience is direction enough. Yeah. Does he say anything else?
Mm-mm.
Did that help that?
Thank you, he says.
So polite. Yeah. It's really interesting that we all live in the same reality in our true nature, just like in meditation. I mean, there certainly can be aberrations or perturbations within that for sure. But when we really go in there, when we really are no longer caught by a dualistic mind, then the experience is one of peace and ease. Our true nature is just aliveness. And the nature of that aliveness is ease and peacefulness and happy, in a simplistic word. So everything that we are caught up in through the distortion field of our woundedness magnetizes us into trying to solve problems where they are not available. By the time they've shown up out here, they were emitted in the past. There's no access to them, right? So it's in this being present with what is, with and to the degree that we can, allowing that distortion lens to fall away, then we start to participate in a collective reality where the mind doesn't run the show, because the the bipolar, or the rational analytic mind, wants everything to be seen as a problem, because we've been conditioned to believe that it's the one that has the answers.
June was very different
So the mind is fully employed. Now, this could go back to the garden story. The curse was, you'll earn your living by the sweat of the brow now, because of the being caught in the polarity of the rational analytic mind. Because now we're going to see everything as a problem. It has to be fixed. And so we're pulled out of where, if we sit back, I was just saying, but we sit back in our game chairs, we have our avatar running through the virtual reality, right? But we can select the conditionings by the way we perceive what's going on out there. If the way we perceive it is distorted by the wound, then we'll be engaged in basically an exercise in futility. Because what's happened in this reality, I call it the PhD syndrome, piled higher and deeper. It's like it's piled on one problem after another, and all of the complexity that comes from fear brought into play to solve it. So once we are present just with what is, and we're not perceiving it through the lens of, oh my God, what's going to happen now? That's a problem. That doesn't feel good. I'm scared. That frequency of fear expressed in all those ways, then it's just what's happening. And it's, it's not even, and the ability, because there's what's dropped away when the distortion field drops away, what's actually dropped away is the idea of a me. And so there's no longer a personal agenda, there's no longer a personal fear that something bad can happen or that I'm a bad person. This work is so available for each one of us to do in any moment.
We have about 4 more minutes before the top of the hour.
Okay. I so appreciate all of you showing up today. It was really, really great. And the ones here too, in my new living room.
I'm trying to put everybody on here for you. There.
I can see everybody.
Robin, can you see that Kim has her hand up?
I don't. Oh, it's high in the sky up there. Yeah, Kim has her hand up.
Okay.
Go, Kim.
Okay, it'll be a real miracle if you can answer this in less than 4 minutes, Polly. But it's really amazing. It's so wonderful to see you. I get to hear you frequently, and I feel very blessed, but it's amazing to see you. When you say, like your last phrase that you just said is, the work is here to be done, or the work, something like that. And you've given me, and probably many of us here, I don't want to say techniques, but portals through which we can step out of the fear self, the fear driven reality. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm just wondering about your experience, because as I understand your story, and some people here, I mean, maybe everybody already knows it, but maybe there are people here who don't. As I understand your story, there was a before and after. And after the me, the person was no more, after the person was no more, were there moments when you noticed your fear self come up and you were able to work with the steps that you've offered us? Or was that something that came to you to help other people and wasn't something that really had to be employed once the person fell away?
Yeah, well, in this case, it just didn't come up again. But I think it was because, just in a simplistic way, because I was so old, and also because I'd done so much other work, right? So there was like this one thread and a gnarly, what had been a gnarly ball of yarn for my whole life of the
Mm-hmm.
constriction and the confinement. But there was this one thread, and when that got pulled, it was like it was kind of a done deal. It wasn't transitioning. And like I said, something could show up again because we are all one. The reason that the work came to me is because the nature of this body mind unit is apparently to be a teacher of sorts, right? Um, and so it then this became my curriculum to offer. And but at the level of my personal experience, there really is no person. And there is great and there is, because it's not a person who has an obfuscation between herself and anything else, there's a great sense of connection to you, to everybody, to my family, to the whole, to and so it's kind of an ongoing sense of it sounds so airy fairy, but of oneness, of just this is it, and I am that, and all that, all those phrases.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank
Did
you.
that answer?
Yeah, I could talk about this for a long time, but yes, you did answer it. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sweetie.
So that's the top of the hour.
Okay. So we've come to this this cycle of me sharing and to some degree responding. We're going to do this every Wednesday at this time. Will the same Zoom link be
Yep,
that?
same
With the
Zoom link.
same Zoom link. I may get better at this because it's a little awkward for me. I'm typically sitting either with a small group, pretty close, but I love all of you for showing up. I really appreciate it, especially my dear family members and my dear students. Love you all. And what will happen now is that we're going to sit for half an hour. And that was a request from some of our local people who appreciate having meditation times together. So aloha to all of you. Mwah. Love you.
And people are saying thank you, Polly, in the chat, sending their thanks and appreciation.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're welcome to stay. You're welcome to leave. We're going to go into silent meditation with Polly, which is always amazing in my experience. The field shifts in incredible ways. And at the end of it, we'll again, Yara will om, and then you'll say goodbye or
We'll end it. Yeah.
we'll end it. Yeah.
We'll say bye.
And I just wanted to say, thank you all for coming. It's been incredible. And I was muted when I was welcoming everybody and telling Polly who was all here. So you didn't hear that excitement of us being so excited about you all being here. So we'll say that now. Okay, we're going to go into meditate. Are you going to be speaking? Should I leave
No.
no speaking? Okay, I'm muting here too. So Deborah, do you want to say anything? Deborah and Devi and Gio and Janine and Arena and Laura Lee and Jan and Rebecca are all still here. If there's anything.
Just great gratitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Polly.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Love you all.
Love you all.
See you
Love
later.
y'all.
Hey,
And thank you, Robin.
Robin, will you show us the field of the group that's sitting in the room? So we're looking.
Okay.
There's Anna Mark, and I see.
Oh, yep.
Was Ari there earlier? There's Mark. I see you.
Mary's there.
There's Ari. Oh, who said that? Oh, Robin. Okay. I just wanted to see everybody. Are you at Polly's new house?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you got another great house.
And here's what we're looking at.
Wow.
We're looking at all you guys.
Oh my God. Where's Yarrow?
Welcome back.
Oh, there's Yarrow. Okay. All right. The herding dog just had to herd them all up. Love you guys.
Good night.
Good
Night,
night.
night.
Good night.